video and all other videos on this channel are for entertainment purposes only. The content of this video and all other videos on this channel are the opinions of the creator only and do not constitute legal, trading, investment, or financial advice of any kind. Investing carries a high level of risk and the majority of retail clients lose money. Do not invest any capital unless you understand the risks and you are prepared to lose it all. Alright, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel and it's Friday, which is cool. It's been quite a nice week, which is also cool. To be completely honest, Twitter is just a really sad state at the moment. People don't seem to realize I'm trying to run a YouTube channel here and find some interesting content to point at and discuss and talk about. And unfortunately, all I can find at the moment is everyone arguing with each other. Everyone's infighting. Everyone's swinging their camel tails around and mine's longer than yours and all of this and you're a LARP. And to be completely honest with you, I just think this is what Rangers do, right? When we have this consolidation like we have had for Bitcoin, which is somewhere around the 9-month region, people just get really worn out, really frustrated, really tired. And just, the reality is people just want to argue with each other on the internet, apparently. So I'm afraid there's not a great deal of value in the content I've got. And I'm sure we could make a whole heap of content if we wanted to, uncovering some drama, right? But I don't know, man. We're not that desperate, right? We're not that desperate. I did want to point at one thing because I keep seeing screenshots of profit. And I wanted to just kind of let you know if you're newer to the space, okay? Number one, I think it is safe and good practice to assume every photo or screenshot of profit, percentages, whatever numbers that you see on the internet is probably photoshopped or edited, okay? I can think of just recently a guy called Zach XBT who is very adept at sort of going after scammers and following wallet addresses and, you know, exposing people for operating sort of crypto scams and theft and that kind of thing. I remember seeing one from him recently where a young teenager had been taking screenshots of profit, modifying them in Photoshop, and then using it to lure people into Telegram groups or Discords, only to say, yeah, okay, send me a few £1,000s and I'll trade it up for you and then send you back some of the money. And then once people had sent him a couple of grand, he would block them and move on to the next, right? Continue to screenshot profit, Photoshop it to make it look like he'd making loads of money, and then again repeat the whole process over. What I found most fascinating about this was, number one, I think he was like 14 or 16 years old, and number two, he had amassed a good couple of £1 million from doing this, right? which is pretty wild to me. It's pretty wild that, you know, in dribs and drabs of £2,000 or £3,000 a time, you can amass a good couple of million just from screenshotting profit. Right? And it's like I said, it's photoshopped screenshotted profit as well. Anyway, the reason I bring this up is, number one, I do think it's best practice to assume all of that stuff is just BS, okay? Number two, I think it's also very, very important, especially if you're new, to understand that anyone can make money, right? The screenshot of profit does not make somebody a good trader, even if it's a lot of money to you. Number one, it might not be a lot of money to them relative to their net worth. But two, they might have had 50 losing trades before that they didn't show you, right? It could also mean that three, they made a big bag of money, right? A good couple of million on a single trade. And then the following two trades, they might give it all back, right? So there are plenty of traders out there that do that. Don't make the mistake of thinking because people trade a lot of size relative to you, that necessarily qualifies them for being a good trader. And I think it's also important to point out, okay, a sign of a real trader is one that will, one, show you where the stop losses are, and two, admit to being wrong when they're wrong, okay? It seems to me, everywhere I look, I'm the only one that ever pays stop losses. Does anyone else notice this? Why am I the only one that pays stop losses? How come everyone else on Twitter only ever makes winning trades? Like, why is it I don't have 100% hit rate? Like, what's going on here, right? So again, if you're following someone that just constantly posts screenshots of profit, okay, and never shows you a stop loss, never shows you where the stop loss is, never has an invalidation for a trade, then maybe, just maybe, put your energy and attention somewhere else. Again, if you're on Twitter all the time arguing with people, I most recently saw somebody who was not only criticizing my work, but was insulting me, right? And I'm like, what's going on here? I tried to reason with them initially, and then I was like, well, now they're just saying something completely opposite. And then it turned out, when I looked on their account, they were a bot, okay? So bots have gotten sophisticated enough now to not only critique my work, but to also insult me on a personal level. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And the biggest eye-opener of this is I was like, wow, I'm just having my energy and attention farmed by a bot, right? Like, as if I've got nothing better to do with my day than get insulted and called a noob and called this or whatever by a bot. I mean, this is where we are. So as ever, I just want to try and be an objective observer here. I just want to kind of look around and say, well, there's not a great deal of alpha. Everyone's arguing with each other, but that probably means we are close to revealing a direction and an explosive move. Markets do have this way of wearing everyone down to a nub right before they reveal the true direction. And like I said, I see a sea of screenshots of profit, but just be critical, be paranoid about that, especially when people apparently never get any trades wrong, because I don't know how they do that. I've also seen, one more thing I'll just add to this, I've also seen something else that made me laugh a lot over the last couple of days, is I see a couple of comments from people that say things like, so-and-so's better than you. And I'm thinking, all right, fine, but why are you on my channel then? Why are you watching my content? So this is the level that people have been driven to, right? People have just been driven completely mad. They're now hating everyone. They're now watching people they don't even respect their work of or whatever. And I mean, I've said it a bunch of times this week, but it's so true. Maybe you need to find yourself a girl, mate. So what kind of alpha can I offer you? Well, I'm going to do my best here. The cycle low for Bitcoin is due around the 5th of November, okay? So that's something we can say for certain will arrive. Somewhere around the 5th of November, we will see a cycle low. And that, remember, also just so happens to align with the election date. I was saying, look, people will probably get super bearish into that time frame, into that window here, November 5th, and start calling for much lower numbers. They always do. As we approach cycle lows, they always get super bearish, but that's what the cycle lows serve to do, reset and flush the sentiment. And if we just take a quick look at this Bitcoin range, okay, we have seen the prior 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times we've touched this, okay? Of course, we touched resistance, rejected. Oh, maybe it's going up, no, rejected. Maybe it's going up, rejected, right? You get the point, keeps rejecting. So the psychology for the masses at the moment will be, well, give me one good reason why this isn't coming next, okay? That's what the majority of people will be thinking into this cycle low time frame. So whilst a scenario like a big deep dip is not entirely off the table because it's a market, right? Anything can happen. I do think that people are going to assume that just because we did it every other time, we're about to do it again, right? I think a lot of people are probably going to get that wrong, thinking that this is absolutely guaranteed and programmed. And I don't think many people are going to be looking for just a sharp drop into that cycle low and a big reversal here. So something to keep in mind, okay? Because the only thing we can know for sure is that there will be a cycle low around this date. Like I said, that also coincides with the elections. You're going to see a whole heap of people use the election as a narrative to explain away the bullish price action, just like they do out of every cycle low, right? Every dip has its narrative. Every piece of bullish price action is explained away by something. And if DT gets in and he's elected or whatever, then you're going to see the narrative like, well, he's pro-crypto, right? And if the other chick gets in, what are we going to see? We're going to see people go, well, Bitcoin's rallying as an anti-establishment thing, right? Like, people will just make up whatever narrative they want to explain away the price action. But the reality is, if you're a cycle trader, you knew this thing was coming for a long time, all the way back here, right? We were calling for this move, something like this yellow squiggle to unfold, cycle low into that November 5th timeframe, and off we go out of that cycle. So the good news is, I know a lot of people seem to think the elections matter, but from a cycle perspective, the cycles say we're going to get a dip into that election and then we're going to bounce strongly thereafter. So happy days, right? Long and strong. Maybe the cycles can predict who's going to win. I don't know. We're not going there. But overall, as Big Mike says, we stick to the plan, okay? We should be looking for something like this, a breakout now. We've had plenty of time to consolidate here. Tell me one good reason why we have to continue to roll over and have to continue to put in new lows. I don't see the reason for that. I think we can more than happily expect higher highs in the not too distant future. Some nice work here from OV Crypto as always. Okay, we have got Wyckoff Re-accumulation phase. Okay, you can see we were expecting an SOS and a grind and then a breakout. Okay, and what he's showing here is that we are basically getting that just from slightly lower down. But overall, if this thing is to escape to the upside, okay, if this thing is to do something like this, as he shows in the following chart, we'll be able to look back in hindsight and say, well, yeah, that made perfect sense. That was really obvious. We were clearly in this accumulation pattern, sign of strength, and then emergence from the reaccumulation range. So happy days there. And here it is on the line chart. Okay, looks pretty clean to me. We've also had 2.4 billion in Bitcoin ETF flows in the past week. So take a look at that. Okay, happy days. There is still demand for the spot ETF products. And we've even got a wild card here because an SEC filing late yesterday afternoon showed that Microsoft has disclosed an assessment of investing in Bitcoin in its most recent filing. If you scroll down a little bit, you can see on their agenda to discuss is number 5, the assessment of investing in Bitcoin. And so far, the board recommends against the proposal. But, of course, if somehow they decide, actually, no, we're going to change the board, or if BlackRock puts some extra people on the board, or if somehow this surprises to the upside and it becomes checked off that they are going to start to acquire Bitcoin, then number 1, bullish Bitcoin, right? That's adoption, that's following in the lead of MicroStrategy. And number 2, it probably suggests to me there's a Microsoft trade there. Okay, like if they announce they're going to buy Bitcoin, I would imagine a whole heap of people will start to bid Microsoft very, very aggressively on that news. And thus, I will probably be interested in playing some Microsoft longs if we get some kind of news like this come out. So it continues to be wild times, right? Wholly speaking, never going to follow my yellow squiggle perfectly, but that's pretty close so far. Like I said, we know there's that cycle low in focus. We could certainly still see a little pop up first before we go down, or maybe this is just going to be like an ABC into that cycle low and go. Either way, as I continuously have been saying, wait for that cycle low, then I'm going to add and use the profit from the first trade to finance the risk on the second, doubling my exposure without taking additional risk. Notice how for gold, okay, this is the other big thing I'm looking at. What is that? A perfect day 10 high, okay, on the Wednesday so far. So if this thing continues to roll over and break down, then we have got a weekly cycle low in focus. If, however, we produce another high after this half cycle low is due, then we can say right translation, expect more bullishness, and then the left translation in daily cycle 5. Either way, all paths lead to a weekly cycle low in the not too distant future. And this would, in my humble opinion, be about the right time to see the top come in if it is indeed going to top. As always, that weekly cycle low timing window is where the biggest opportunity presents. The S&P really needs to hold this third and final angle. So far, so good. Okay, but I'd like to see this thing push off. Same is true of the NASDAQ and the Dow. Not much to say about that, although the Dow has fired a much more significant warning sign here. As always with the trend lines, okay, it's the cycles that are in control, and for me, the trend lines are early warning signals. Since we're so early in this current daily cycle, I have no problem giving this a little bit more space to see if it can turn around. If you wanted to be the type of trader that just shoots immediately on a breakdown, there's nothing wrong with that, okay, but whatever one you do, choose one and stick to it. Don't be chopping around, sometimes respecting these breakdowns immediately and other times just disregarding them entirely. For me, it's the cycles that matter, but that is indeed an early warning sign. As always, I give it a couple of days of space. That's my strategy. And I'm not too concerned at this point because the S&P and the NASDAQ are still holding up. Russell 2K is still doing a whole heap of nothing, isn't it? But long and strong, right? No reason to be overly bearish here. I do believe the Dixie is top for this daily cycle, and we'll be looking for a daily cycle low in the next few sessions. And then, like I've been saying over and over again, the question is, does the next cycle left translate and fail, or right translate, and do we put on a big dollar bull market ahead of us? And equally, if the yields are going to roll over and top, now would also be the perfect time to see that happen. So as you can see, no real changes, right? We stick to the plan, we wait for the cycle lows to give us the highest probability setups, and then we take advantage of them. If you are not subscribed and you want to see me do this in real time, you want to see me use the profit from the last trades to finance new trades and increase my exposure without taking additional risk, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you are interested in my macro assessment and the base case hypothesis of the channel, then make sure, again, you hit that subscribe button. Tune in tomorrow for the weekend's deep dive. And if you're a level 3 member, I've got a nice strategy that I'm going to unveil to you guys for how to capture the next Bitcoin cycle low using a bunch of crypto-related equities. So I'll post that for you guys on Saturday as well. Other than that, I hope you had a lovely week like I did. I wish you all the best for the weekend. And until next time, God bless, take care, cheers, bye.
Camel finance, he's the man to see. Rocking the markets with his contrarian spree. Trades like a pro, no fear, no shame. Sticking to his guns in his money game. He's a badass, oh yes indeed. Camel finance, got the markets key. Taking us normies on a